Now, we're going to tangentially go off into the sugya about paskening in front of your Rebbe. Let's say something is so obvious. Let's say you're sitting with your Rebbe's in town, and somebody asks you, can you cook meat and milk together? Would you be over the isser of being paskening? So somebody asks you, you have a chutzner, and the guy lives there, and there's one other guy, one Jew and one guy. What's the halacha? You say, well, what are you talking about? I don't have to ask anybody. It's the Mefurish Mishnah. The halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, which says only two. Would that be considered being moira hayra in front of your Rebbe or not? Since you're telling something that is obvious, because the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. That's what the Gemara wants to know. And tangentially, we're going to go off into the sunset for another block, discussing the halacha being moira halacha lifnei rabbi. Says the Gemara. So, even a question whether you can eat an egg in milk, you can't paskin. An egg, can you eat an egg in milk? Of course you can eat egg in milk, right? That you can't even paskin. They asked questions from Rav Chisda all the years that Rav Huna was alive. Now Rav Huna was his Rebbe. And Rav Chisda did not give a psak. Rabbi Yaakov bar Rabbi Abaya could go in Megillus Tainus, the Ksiva Umancha, halacha that's open Megillus Tainus, that's there in front of you. Can you go ahead and tell that over in place of your Rebbe? Amalei, Hachi, Amar Rabbi Yosef, Afilu beYosef Kutcha, even something as clean as what? Clear cut halacha as an egg and milk, you're not able to pass it. Boy mine Rav Chisda, Kol Shani Rav Huna v'lei Oiri Rav Chisda. Says, but Oiri bekafre v'loi Oiri. Rav Chisda Oiri bekafre b'shani Rav Huna. Rav Chisda, he did paskin in the lifetime of Rav Huna in the city of Kafri, Amid Aleph. Rav Hamnuna Oiri becharto de Argas, in the city of Charto de Argas, he paskin. B'shani Rav Chisda in the lifetime of Rav Chisda was his Rebbe. Ravina Asar Sachina Babavel. Ravina, he went ahead and he checked the Sakinim to check. They used to go ahead. The minig was to cover the Rav. They'd show the shechita knife to the Rav. And Ravina, even the lifetime of Rav Ashi, they showed him the knife. Omer Rav Ashi, my time of Marhachi. Amalei Rav Hamnuna Oiri Becharti the Argas B'shani Rav Chisda. Rav Hamnuna, he went ahead and paskin in this town of Charta the Argas in the lifetime of Rav Chisda. So you see, it's not considered being Moira Hayra. L'fnei Rabbi Amalei Lav Oiri Itmar, right? I didn't learn Oiri. I learned Lav Oiri. I learned that Rav Hamnuna did not paskin. Amalei, so Ravina told him, Itmar Oiri, I learned Oiri, Vitmar Loy Oiri. And I don't Loy Oiri, and I'll explain it to you. B'shani de Rav Huna, Rabbi, Rav Chisda, when his Rebbe was alive, Rav Huna, who de Loy Oiri? For Oiri b'shani de Rav Chisda. But Rav Hamnuna, excuse me, I said Rav Chisda. Rav Hamnuna did not paskin in the lifetime of Rav Huna because Rav Huna was his Rebbe. But he did paskin in the lifetime of Rav Chisda. Why? The Talmud Chava delay habe. He was considered a contemporary. Talmud Chava is they're of the same level, the same ilk. And now Ravina retorts to Rav Ashi. You want to know why I passed on the chalif on the slaughterer's knife? V'ananami Talmud Chava demarana. I Ravina am a Talmud Chava Rav Ashi, and therefore I passed him. Amar Rabba Tzumar Rabbanon Chazil Nafshe. Let's say at Tzumar Rabbanon, he can pass it for himself. No Tzumar Rabbanon, they ask him Shaila, he can go ahead and run it for himself. In other words, they throw him the sakin. He's in the town. He's in the town of Moshe Feinstein, and he knows the halacha. They show the sakin to him if it's good or not. If he's going to eat from the shechita, he can pass it for himself. He doesn't have to show it to Rav Moshe. Ravina Iklil Mechuza. Ravina came to Mechuza. I see Ush Bezichna Sakina. The innkeeper brought him his knife. The Kamachrile, and he looked at it. Amalei, he said, Zil Amte LeRava, go show it to Rava. Amalei, Le'Sava Mar Hodam Rava, Sum Rabban Chazal Nafshe. You're going to eat from the shechita, so why do you have to show it to Rava if you're going to eat from it? So Amalei said, "Anam Mizvah Zvina. I'm not considered like you're shechting for me. I'm buying it from you. When I eat the basa, for the word, it's like I bought it from you. It's not I'm shechting for myself. You're shechting for you, and I'm buying it from you. Even though I'm directly gonna have enough from it, but you're not shechting for me. In other words, If I was the shaykhit on my property and I'm checking, I don't have to ask Rava. But since you're going to have the shechita for me, right, then I have to go ahead and ask. Simin zila lahanya machlif ikva b'Yaakov. Rav Eliezer Magrunya, Rav Abba bar Tachlifo, Igloi lebe Rav Acha. They came to what? The town of Rav Acha, Berei de Rav Iko, Asrei de Rav Acha b'Yaakov. So now, there's a lot of names over here. We have Rav Eliezer Magrunya, Rav Abba. They came to the house of Rav Acha, Berei de Rav Iko, and the key is this: the head of the town, the Rav in the town was Rav Acha b'Yaakov. Boy Rav Acha Berei de Rav Iko lemevad lahu igla tilsa. He wanted to make an igla tilsa. An igla tilsa is either third born or a third of its growth. It's a very, very chush of a dish. It's supposed to be like the best. Throughout Shas, being an igla tilsa is supposed to be the best food you can eat. So I see sakina. They wanted a shechta. They brought the knife. The kamachri lahu, and they showed it to Rav Acha Berei de Rav Iko. So I'm Rav Acha bar Tachlifa. Aren't you worried about Rav Acha bar Yaakov? Because he's, after all, he's the Rav in the town. So Amar lahu Rav Elazar Megunya Hachi Amar Rava Tzubim Rabbanu Chazi L'Nafshe. So Chazi is able to see it anyway. But Chazi they paskin Rav Elazar Megunya paskin on the knife. The Anish Rav Elazar Megunya, and he got punished. I l'chari it's for him the shchita. For Amar Rava Tzubim Rabbanu Chazi L'Nafshe. So why was he punished? Shani Chasam das Chila b'Chvoidai. Once they began asking for the cover of Racha b'Yaakov, 1 second, then they should have shown it. If they didn't say anything, if it was quiet and clandestine, then there's no reason to go ahead. Once they raised it, shouldn't we show it to him? Then Chinami, Rav Elazar said, you're right. And we wouldn't use the waiver of Tzubim Rabbanu Chazi L'Nafshe. Another b'shat, by saying as Shainer Racha b'Yaakov, the muflik, he was muflik, he was outstanding. I have a wonderful Torah over here. Okay, he was muflik. Okay, let me tell you a nice piece of Torah over here, and we'll call it a night. I have written over there. There's a Gemara in Kiddushin and the Chav Teslam is base. There was a mazik. There was a shade in shul with heads. It's a Medusa. It's a really mud the Gemara with, and people were being affected. They go to the shul. It was haunted by the shade, and they went ahead and Abaya tricked Rav Acha bar Yaakov, and he tricked him to go into the shul. And he went into the shul, and Taka, he was able to deal with this mazik, got rid of it. And the question the Olam asks is, how is Abaya able to go ahead and put Rav Acha bar Yaakov in the sakana? The shade was the sakana. So just because he had tremendous chusim, what gave him that right? So I wanted to answer based upon this Gemara. When the Gemara says over here, he was different than everybody. He was muflik. In other words, any other person you wouldn't have to ask the Shaila to. He was so outstanding, he was muflik, and therefore Mamela they had to ask the Shaila to him. And therefore his chus was so strong enough, and Abaya knew this, and therefore it wasn't Bechal Sakona for Rav Acha bar Yaakov to put himself in this position. We're up to Samech Gimel Amid Aleph, and we're going through the sugya about a person being Moira Halacha L'fnei Rabbi, what the halacha is. So we said that in certain scenarios, it's permitted. If, for example, the person is pasking for themselves, that we was discussing showing the knife. In other words, the halacha is that you're supposed to show the knife to the Rav in the town. So if the person is eating it himself, then what? Then he doesn't have to show it. He can paskin for himself. Or if the person is a particularly muflik, we saw Rav Acha bar Yaakov was a stupendously muflik person, then you should show him despite the fact you're eating. And that's where we're up to. We're up to the first wide line. Amar Rava, but right before it gets wide, Sameth Gimel Amid Aleph, 2 lines up. Amar Rava, Ulafushe mi surah afil b'fun of shapidami. If you're going to go ahead and separate someone from doing an aveira, even in front of your Rebbe, you're able to pass an halacha. You see someone going to do an aveira, and your Rebbe is there, you're able to go ahead and, even though it's from the Rebbe, to stop the person from doing the aveira, lafushe mi surah shapidami, it is permitted. Ravina Habi Yosef came to Rav Ashi. Ravina was sitting in front of Rav Ashi. Chazilu Gavra de Kol Asalef LeChamra B'Sinsar. He went ahead. He tied his chamor to a decal tree, on Shabbos, Shabbat. On Shabbos, he was using a tree. We saw you're not supposed to use a tree on Shabbos, and he went ahead and he was using a tree on Shabbos. So Rama Beikala, he lifted up his voice and said, don't use the tree on Shabbos. And the person did not listen. So Amalei Ravina said, Lahabi Hai Gavra B'Shamta, this person should be in Cherem for not going ahead and listening to the Rabbanon who say you're not supposed to use a tree on Shabbos. Amalei Ravina said to Ravashi, Ki I gav nani mischazek apikursa. In this scenario, would appear to be an apikoris. Look at Rashi, fellas. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Hamilsa Davidi.
Did you find one?
Excuse me? What? Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Hamilsa Davidis Kamach. That I did in front of you. Hashtami Havi apikursa chutzpah. Apikoris over here does not mean that person doesn't believe. Here, apikursa means a person who's a mechutzif. In other words, what I just did in front of you by going ahead and saying that person for not listening to the words of the Chachanim, by tying something to a tree, I try to stop him and I say Shmi Chayrim. Is that computed in the chutzpah? So Amalei Ravashi said to Ravina, in Chachma vein Tfuna vein Eitzel Neged Hashem. When it comes to a Chil Hashem, Kamakom Sheyes B'Chil Hashem, Ein Cholkim Kavod L'Rav. It's no lack of kavod. We don't give kavod. Over here, you did the right thing, absolutely. Rav Ashi is corroborating the Ravina's behavior by trying to get this person to be mafish from Isura, from not doing an Avera. Amarava, the fun of Asa, v'chayiv Misa. If someone's Mara Allah in front of his Rebbe, he's Asa and he's chayiv Misa. Shaloi b'fun of, not in front of him, Asa, then chayiv Misa. Right? We had the sugya, fellas, I don't know if you remember, we had it in Daf Lamed Aleph, in Brachas. We had, when Shmuel was Moira Hayra in front of Eli, he said that a zar is kosher l'shchita, that a zar can shecht. In other words, a non-kohen can shecht. And he said, Eli said, you're saying good, but you chayiv misa nonetheless. And Chana Davin, that he should go ahead and his life should be saved. His life should be saved. So it's not the first time we've had this in Shas. Says the Gemara Vaytu, shaloi b'fun of loy, shaloi b'fun of yinach chayiv misa v'tanya. There's many reasons given why Nadav Avihu died. They say they were Makrav and Ezar. So in this case, we're saying they passed in front of Moshe. My Darish, it says, V'naslu b'nei Aaron HaKoyim, Eish al Mizbeach. It says, and b'nei Aaron should put an Eish on the Mizbeach. Amru, they concluded, Af al Pisha Eish Yeredis min Shamayim. Even though there's a fire that descends from above, nonetheless, the Torah is telling us that mitzvah lehevi b'nai hedyet. It's a mitzvah to bring from a non-deity. It's a mitzvah to bring from a human being, and therefore they decided to go ahead and do it. Now, Pashtus, they weren't in front of Moshe when they said this. Yet we know they were chayiv misa. We know that they got burnt. The Talmud Echad Hayel Eliezer. There was a Rabbi Eliezer had a Talmud. Shahira Alacha b'fanav. Rabbi Lezer, he said to his wife, to me, I think, and I'm wondering, this person is going to live throughout the year. However, and Taka, he didn't make it through the year. So Amaloi, his wife, Ima Shalom, said to Eliezer ben Urkinis, Naviyata, you're a Navi? So Amaloi told her, no, Loi Navi, Anochi, I'm not a Navi. Loi ben Navi, no, I'm the son of a Navi. However, Elakach Mukabloni, I have such a Kabbalah, and this is the Gemara in Brachos, Kalamar Allah, say Rabbi, Chayiv Misa, and it was Mari Harasa, it was Chayiv Misa. I say Talmud Yehuda ben Gurya Shemai. This Talmud, we even get his name. His name was Gurya ben, or Yehuda ben Gurya. V'hoya rachak mimenu shalish parsais, right? And he was what? Rachak mimenu shalish parsais. Says the Gemara, the fun of Hava. You're telling me he was the fun of? But rachak mimenu shalish parsais come on. How can you tell me he was more halach in front of him? You see, he was 3 passerangs away. He was quite a distance away. Says the Gemara, what are you telling us what? The name of him and his father. Just tell us his name. Why do you tell us the father's name? You shouldn't say it's a mashal. You shouldn't think stamazai. We want you to be medayik. So in other words, we're giving you exact specs. So his name was Yehuda ben Gurya. He lived 3 parsais away from Rabbi Eliezer, but in fact he was Moira Halacha Hayra befanov, in front of Rebbe Eliezer. He lived away from him, but the actual act that cost him his life was befanov. Shaloi befanov, he would be mechayev misa. Befanov is chayev misa. Amrav Chia Barabba, Amrav Yochanan, Kol HaMoira Halachah Hey Rabbi, Roy Lakishay Nachas. Anyone who's Moira Hayra in front of Rabbi, it's way that a Nachas should buy him. So there's a very, very interesting Torah Chaim on this. There is a Gemara in Sanhedrin that tells you that even though that Bezdin is batal, the Arba Misas Bezdin are not batal. So a person who's Mechuyev Skila will fall off a roof. A person who's Mechuyev Hereg will be decapitated by the king, by the Malchus. A person who's Mechuyev Sreifa, he will get burnt in a fire, or he'll get bitten by a snake, because the venom of the snake seems to be it burns. So this person over here, since he went ahead and was Moira Hayra in front of his Rebbe, why do we see that happen to Nadav Avihu, guys? Nadav Avihu, the Yatsa Eish, and burnt them, right? We said they had Sreifa, they were burnt on the inside, and their bodies were still intact. They were Mechuyev Sreifa. So this is Mida Kneged Mida. A person who's Moira Hayra, we see the punishment for being Moira Hayra Rabbi is Sreifa. Where do you see that from? Nadav Avihu. Memela, you'll be bitten by a snake, which is tantamount to Sreifa. And therefore, says the Torah Chaim, it's Mida Kneged Mida. Shenemar, and he brings the pasuk. It says, "Vayan Elayu ben Brachvel Habusi Vayom et Sorani Layomim Alkein Zalchalti." Therefore, Zalchalti, I'm afraid. The play on words is ksiv. It says, "Im Chamas Zoichalei Offer." When the venom of the snake that slithers through the earth. So you see the word Zoichle, and over here the play on words Zalchalti as a mechuyev sreifa, being bitten by a snake. Ziri Amar Reb Chanina Nikra Chayta. Person who's Moira Hayra in front of the Rebbe is called a Chayta. Shnamar, Belivi Tzafanta in Masecha. In my heart I hid your words. L'man le'echtalach, and I shouldn't sin to you. In other words, a place where I could have opened my mouth and been Moira Hayra Tzafati in Masecha. I was tzoif and I hid your words. I was not Moira Hayra. I kept it within myself. I wasn't mefarsim it. Therefore, he's saying that he kept quiet. Rav Nuna Rami. Rav Nuna said, "Ksiv." David HaMelech writes, "Believe it Safati in Rasecha." Ukasiv, it says, "Versarti tzedek b'kal rav." I proclaimed Hayra b'kal rav amongst a lot of people. So you see, David did pass him b'ravim. So how can you say Safati in Rasecha? On one hand, he held back the Hayra. Another place here, he says that why? He says, "Versarti tzedek b'kal rav." Among many people, I was Moira Hayra. Like Kasha, no problem. Kam bisman she'ira hayiri kayim. David's Rebbe was someone called Ira hayiri. As long as he was alive, David Safanti Liba, he went ahead and he hit it. As long as he was alive. Bisman she'eni ira hayiri kayim. As long as he was not alive, then what? Then David was Besati Tzedek Bekahal Rav. So Itaka wasn't Moira Hayra the whole time he was alive. We saw yesterday that Rav Nuna did not paskin the whole time Rav Nuna was alive. He didn't paskin. So Amar Rebbe Abba Barzavda Kol Anoisim Matnoisav LeKoyin Echad. Anyone who gives his matanos, the various matanos to a Koyin Echad, maybe Rav L'Olam, he'll bring Rav to the world. Shenemar. It says Ira Hayiri Hayakoyin LeDavid. Ira Hayiri was a Koyin to David. Says the Mother, David who Davi Koyin LeKol Yamalei. Only to David he was the Koyin. He wasn't Koyin to anybody else. El Shahayim Mishagalei Matnoisav. David would send him the Matnas Kahuna Uksiv Basrei. By he Rav, we made David. So as a result of David giving only to one Kain, it caused what? It caused a Rav. Taisus means a Kasha. I thought the Rav was caused because he killed out the Gevoinim. He killed out the Gevoinim, meaning he killed out Shol, killed out Nover Kahanim, and there had been the Gevoinim were starving as a result. So he says Hava Hatalia. It says each one was responsible. My reading, my Samigdulasai. Someone who's Moira Rav front of his Rebbe, not only is a Chayiv Misa, not only will he, his days will be shortened, we said, but in fact he's called a Chayta. In addition, my reading he'll be taken down from his position of prominence. Shneimar, Vayomer Elazar HaKoyen Elanshei Hatzava. It says Elazar HaKoyen, and he told the people, he was the Meshuach Muhammad, he gave them the whole speech about war. And Moshe was alive. Now, Afagav the Amar Lahu. even though Rebbe Lazar, Eliezer told the people, La'achi Abba Tziva, Achi Abba, the brother of my father, he was the son of Aaron, the brother of Aaron was Moshe, for Oisi Loit Tziva, so he was Mitzubiyu, not me. So in other words, he wasn't Meira Hira, Afilu Hachi Anish. Nonetheless, he was punished. The fact that he gave it over, he was punished. It says that in front of that Eliezer will stand in front of Yeshua. However, Yeshua, the whole Bnei Yeshua, you never find he needed a Eliezer. So you see that why, even though Moshe said he would be, nonetheless, he was Yorad Mikudulasai because he was unnecessary. All the years of Yeshua, he was unnecessary, and no one, and he didn't, because he was Yorad Mikudulasai for going ahead. So it's an amazing thing that this being Moira Hira. I think the Pshat is Azoi. There's a huge thing about Messiah. There's a huge thing about Messiah. I didn't elaborate upon this because I just didn't. We saw the difference between Bnei Yehuda and Bnei Galil. The people in Yehuda, the Torah was Niskayim. They made Simonim. There was a shmua. They said Eid Mipiyeh. They said from the Rebbe. I told you over my Rebbe can say the shir over from Shimon verbatim. There's something about going ahead and not deviating that keeps the Messiah intact. Eid Mipiyeh, all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't think it's an Indian of Gaiva. I think it's making sure that there's an idea of a Rav, and you know your place, and there's a Rebbe, and then there's a Talmud, and there's a Rebbe, there's a Talmud. It keeps the Torah intact all the way back, the chain linked all the way back. When we stood in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kach Anish Kivanti. That's what I believe. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Anyway, it says the Gemara Vaita. Omar Ablevi called him Ma'asav Mila Kamei Rabbi. Anyone who goes ahead, Ma'asav Mila means if he goes ahead and he answers the Omer Hira in front of his Rebbe, Azul the Shoyal. They'll end up going to Shoyal, which is Gehenim. Beloy Vlad without a kid. Shenemar, Bayan Yeshua bin Nun Misharis Moshe and Bechurav, and Yeshua bin Nun Misharis Moshe answered. This is the Ma'asav with Eldad and Meidad. They were Mitzvah Mamachne. They were saying Nevuah that Moshe Mace, that Moshe is going to die, and Yeshua Machnas, and Yeshua is going to bring him to Eretz Yisrael. So when Yeshua heard this, he went ahead and he decided, Moshe Kilaim. He said, go ahead, lock him up, destroy them. That's what he said. Amid Beis. Ukasiv, it says Nun. When it gives the history of the family, it says Elishama. It says Elishama, his son was Nun, and his son was Yeshua. But after Yeshua, it does not say who his son was, because in fact, Yeshua only had daughters. Yeshua had 8 daughters, as we're going to see. It's not that he didn't have a son. He had a lot of daughters, and he became a caterer. I have a Messiah, he became a caterer before COVID. Anyway, said the Gemara Vaita. Upligi the Rav Ava Papa. The Rav Ava Papa, like Nenesh Yeshua El B'Shvil Shepitlei Sol Laila Achas and Periverivia. This opinion that we voiced on the Amid Aleph, the opinion of Levi, the opinion of Levi that Yeshua had no children is because he was Moira Hayra in front of Moshe saying what to do with Eldad and Medad. That's not the reason given by Rav Abba Bar Papa. He gives a different reason. Let me give you the background over here. Yeshua, the commentary to Israel, where the first city we're conquering is Yericho, and there's a siege around Yericho. And Moshe, he was busy. He dipping the Tamid Shel Ben Arbayim, and he brought the Orin into the Machna. He wanted the people to go ahead and get a chizuk to see the Orin. So he took the Orin out of Gilgal and he put it in the Machna, not realizing the whole time it was there, the Orin's kedusha of the Orin, it was mevatel men from Pir Verivia. They couldn't live with their wives. Mida Keneged Mida, you stop men from being Mekayim the mitzvah Pir Verivia, you were never Mekayim the mitzvah Pir Verivia, and you never had any sons. So this is the other side of the coin. Says the Gemara, please Rav Abba Papa, like Nenesh Yeshua El B'Shvil Shepitlei Yisrael Laila Achas Mi Pir Verivia. He was mvatem one night from Pir Verivia. What's the background? It's like I told you, Shneimar, he sees a Malach Hashem come, and the Malach he has a drawn sword. He comes, I come now. So I'm a loy. Why did you come? He wants to know what's he being punished for. So I'm a loy. Yesterday you mevatel Tamid Shel Ben Abayim. And now you're being about them from learning Torah. So Yeshua said, what are you coming for? Yesterday or today? Now I'm coming for now. I'm coming for Bittul Torah. So Miyad Vayelch Yeshua B'Layla Hu, it says by Emek, says by the Battle of Ai, he learned his lesson. Lon be'emek. When it says lon be'emek, it's a play on word. Emek usually means valley. Over here, lon be'omkoyim, the depths of Torah. He learned from his mistake. By Yericha, Rashi learns by I, and he corrected it. So you see that why he got involved in learning. Okay, that's all the background again, but it's nothing to do with why he didn't have any children. Men, boys. The whole time that the Aron and the Shechina are not in their place, Asurim b'tashmish lamita, the Asa b'tashmish, and that's the kafkara, and that's why. So machlokes between Levi, the reason he didn't have a child because he was more by Eldon and Medad, or Madam Bar Papa because of this incident with with the Aron. Learning Torah is greater than being mat, than even being a Karman Tamid. Why? The Amar, what does it say? The Amar lay atabasi. You have a choice. You have two averis, right? Which one are you coming from? So he goes, I'm coming from now. I'm not coming from the fact that you mavatal the korban menabayim. I'm coming now because why? Because you failed to learn. Amrav Buna, Amrav Kol HaYosham B'Kila She'ish V'ish Le'Shurim. By anyone who lies within the curtain that a man and a woman are lying in, thus stopping them from living together. But Allah Kosev says, the pasuk says, Shei Ami Tigorin, you've cheated. Shei Ami based Tanugeha. Even his wife's a nida. Rav no other Rabbi. Mishla nida he tabile bracha because he's separating them. It's not true what Rabbi said. Who would watch them until now?